Boom, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so we were just talking about just got back from Alaska like 3 or 4 days ago. It was definitely one of the coolest hunts I've ever done. It was an adventure, man. So we got taken by airboat up the Ivashak River, which is on the north slope. And where we started was like flat land, like just tundra. And then like we went, you couldn't even see the mountains, and we went all the way up this thing to the foot, like right at the foot of the Brooks Range. Um, so it was like 50 miles direct, but 70 river miles. And man, so we camped back there right on the border of the Anwar, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And we hunted 7 days, killed two bulls. We saw like just amazing stuff. Like the first night I was going on a stalk and it got blown up by a wolf chasing these two caribou bulls like out of the basin, which, you know, was sort of a, I mean, it wasn't really I mean, on the surface it's a bummer, but like quote unquote, but I was like, I didn't care at all. I thought it was cool. Like, how many people get to see a wolf chasing two mature caribou bulls? And
Not a lot
so,
of people. That's
yeah.
rad.
And I was like, if I'm gonna have a stalk blown up, that's the way I'd like to have it. Not like at first I thought it was me, but then I saw the wolf chasing it and I was like, oh, that's cool. We saw musk ox at like 20 yards and like filmed it, and he just like looked at us and like didn't give a crap. It was like just like rubbed his head on something and just went away. It was a big one too.
Yeah.
And we saw grizzly bears, moose, just amazing stuff. And then we killed two bulls. I killed one, like a nice mature bull. And then I filmed my cameraman shoot one too, which is always fun. And then we floated out on alpaca rafts, 70 river miles. It took us 2 days to raft out. And it was gnarly. It was wild, man.
Unreal.
It
Have you
was
been out there
crazy.
before, Hunter?
Yeah, so this is my third trip to Alaska. Um, Oddly enough, my first ever backpack hunt, like backcountry hunt, was in Alaska, which is kind of weird. It's kind of a backwards way to do it, but it that trip changed my life. And but we didn't. It was a DIY caribou walk-in hunt. We didn't kill anything, but still changed my life. And so it's kind of been a multi-year journey to get my caribou. And then I went to Kodiak the year after that. And so this hunt was my third time to Alaska, and it felt like it was the culmination of like everything I've learned over the past 4 years coming together that allowed us to pull this thing off successfully. And even then, like I still felt like just a touch like out of my league, like just, when we got there, just to be fully honest. But like that's what you need, you need to like push
Hmm.
yourself a little bit, like get a little bit outside your comfort zone. Not so far outside your comfort zone that you're gonna like die, but like just enough to where it's like a little scary, but you can push through and do it. And that's exactly what it was. And like it was the culmination of, learning how to pack raft, how to just everything I've learned over the past, like I said, 4 years. And it was an amazing trip. And yeah, amazing adventure. It'd be
You're
hard to top
always
that one.
you're always taking adventures though, man. I think I ended up finding out who you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I really hope I don't have the wrong guy, but didn't you go film Dan a couple years ago?
Yeah, so my first ever kind of so I have a background in TV production, so I didn't
Yep.
come into it like just from nothing. But never, but and I had well, I don't know, go down too many rabbit trails, but I did have some hunting filming experience with a crew I used to film with out here, but that was like waterfowl, and I didn't know what I was doing. Um, but anyway, I got into the podcast, did a podcast with Dan. I saw on social he was looking for a videographer, and so I just sent him some of my work from my TV job, the Christian Broadcasting Network, and he was like, "Yeah, man, come on," and just kind of took a chance on me. That was like my first kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. You could call it a break, I don't know, but kind of my first foot in the door, really.
Hmm.
Working with someone like that who I respect a lot. I think he's a great dude. And yeah, I came out to New Mexico with him. I was in his hip pocket for 9 days, and it was that was another wild adventure, but yeah, different kind.
Yeah, I remember. I remember listening to the podcast. He picked you up from the airport, and you guys just bombed it straight out, right?
Pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm used to it now because I've done it so many times.
Mhm.
Where this whole thing where you like meet somebody for the first time ever and then go spend 10 days like 24/7 with them. It's like a really weird experience, especially at first when you're not used to it. It's kind of cool. It's a different experience, but like I said, I'm used to it now. But it was very strange that was the first time. Whereas like literally like, hey, yeah, nice to meet you, boom, straight out. And then like the first day we did like 12 miles and like 4,000 vertical up and down. And and that first whenever I have a really, really tough exertion day, like really hard, I can never sleep that night for some reason. It's like the worst thing ever. But I just remember being like not able to sleep, just like, dude, I don't know if I can do this. But I was like, but I'm not quitting early. That's not an option. So the only other option is just keep going. So I did it, and but yeah, it's weird, man. Going from never meeting someone to being constantly together and struggling together, and
Yes.
but it's cool. Like right now, like I consider Dan like a friend. Like I mean, it's almost we don't talk as much as I'd like because we're both busy and stuff, and he's doing his own thing. But I don't know. I'd still like consider him a brother just from those 9 days. Spent more time with him in 9 days than I probably have spent with any other friend in like the past year combined.
It's one of my favorite ways to meet folks, honestly, because you can't hide. Like you can't hide who you are, and they can't hide either. Especially if you're, backpacking in and shit like that,
Yeah,
and putting on huge miles and climbing a bunch of vert. I mean, dude, like that shit sucks, and you simply can't hide from that. And
yeah,
it takes me about an hour into a hunt when I do meet guys like that, and I can tell if we're gonna be friends or not. Just if they're
yeah.
complaining or this, like if they're complaining, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be a long
That's the
trip.
worst, man.
Yeah,
Like
dude.
I will work with somebody who is slower than me, has less skills.
All day.
Oh, but if you're whining and moaning,
Mhm.
no. That's attitude is like 95% of it, man.
I agree.
If
No,
not more.
I totally agree. Well, dude, Hunter McWaters, if you guys are listening to this, I'm sure if you follow my stuff, you follow a lot of Hunter stuff. Podcast is the Hunter's Quest, correct?
Yes, sir.
Cool, man. I've listened to a few episodes. I really appreciate you coming on. I
Yeah,
had
man.
been
Glad to
hip
be
to you
here.
for a while since I told you that Dan Staten podcast, and then I think a mutual friend of ours, Kobe. Are you friends with
Hmm.
Kobe Owens?
Yeah, he's filming a hunt for me in about a
Perfect.
month. Yeah.
Perfect. He commented on one of my posts and was like, "You need to have Hunter on," and I was like, "Dude, we've already been talking about it, and we
Yeah.
have been waiting to set it up. So stars aligned perfectly, man. And I just really appreciate you being here."
I appreciate you having me, dude. It's always fun, and had to switch days on you, so sorry about that. But
All
yeah,
good.
thanks for
All
having me,
good.
dude. Love it.
Tell me a little bit about the podcast, man. Like I know the preference of it, but how did it start?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it? It's not easy work I mean, I run one as well, and I'm sure you know
Hmm.
a lot of other guys that are ripping pods, and it's not as easy as one may think if you want to do it right.
Absolutely, man. And like so many people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna start a podcast," and they do like two crappy episodes, and they're like, "Never
Mhm.
mind." So, yeah, it's fun, man. So when I got back from that first trip to Alaska, like I said, it's cliche, but it really changed my life. Like I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if I didn't do that trip to Alaska. Um, and shout out to my buddy Ned for taking me. Um, but when I got back from the trip, so back up prior to the trip, when I started realizing like what this trip was going to entail, I realized I had a long way to go and I had about a year to prepare. So I started, I mean, getting training really hard. I mean, I wasn't at my fattest point at that point, but I was close. And just physically, I'm a different person. Um, and the hunting trip was the carrot, my goal that really was huge in losing a ton of weight and getting in shape. But also, I knew nothing. I mean, I'm on the East Coast. I like live in Virginia Beach at the time, beach town, no mountains. I mean, um, you couldn't even go to a store and like find proper hunting boots. The only thing that you
Mhm.
could find is like knee-high muck
Muck
boots.
boots. Yep.
Yeah. Like, so that's just one example to say I knew nothing about backpacking, mountaineering, backpack hunting, just a lot of stuff I had to learn. And so what I started doing was just listening to a ton of podcasts and just consuming podcasts and learned a ton. And through that process, I started hearing from guys like Dan and other guys. No one's really coming to my head at the moment, but exactly perfect example like Dan. Great platform, talks a ton about mental toughness, physical fitness, tactics, gear, all that stuff. But to me, I feel like we as humans are triune beings, which means we're spirit, soul, or spirit, mind, and body, or spirit, soul, and body, however you want to say it. And nobody was really addressing the spiritual side of it. They might be like, oh yeah, they might mention faith kind of in passing or whatever. So I don't know, just kind of tucked that away. And when I got back from the podcast, when I got back from that Alaska trip, I was like, this is what I want to do. I didn't know like professionally it's what I want to do, but I was like, I want to Western hunt. I started buying points everywhere, across the West or where I could, and just figuring out how I was going to do it again because it was just such an amazing, like, immersive experience, and I wanted to keep going. And so, excuse me. So yeah, then I felt like, and I don't know where you stand, like religiously or whatever, but so this may sound weird, it may not. I felt like God telling me to start this podcast. And also, I wanted to do it because selfishly, I just wanted to talk to all these like cool, awesome people I've been listening to and learn firsthand by just talking to these guys. So I was like, it's probably not that hard. It's a little harder than I thought, but I was like, it's probably not that hard. I'm just going to start one for fun on the side, whatever. I was working at my church at the time, actually. And and just learn and also I thought I could kind of have a unique voice in the space by tying in more of the faith aspect into it without being a quote unquote Christian podcast or getting really preachy or like doing an altar call on every. I want to talk about spirituality, and I talk to LDS guys. I talk to people who aren't Christians. I had one guest who was talking about like New Age stuff. I was like, okay. I don't like slam one theology over people's heads. I was on the Kafaru cast, and Aaron Snyder grilled me about Christianity for like an hour and a half because he came on mine, and I asked him about God. You guys should listen to that if you get a chance. But anyway, so I want to talk about it without being preachy or whatever. So yeah, I just started, and I don't like doing anything halfway. Like if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it as best I can, or I'm not gonna do it at all. I'm I'm an all or nothing type person, which can be unhealthy sometimes, but also can be an asset. You got to manage it. But I went all in kind of, and it just started doing well and gaining some traction. And then that kind of one thing led to another. I filmed a hunt. Then Brian Call got a hold of it. I sent him a rough cut. He wanted to do some work together, and then it just kind of escalated from there to where I am now. Actually, and now I'm in the first season. I don't even know if you know this, but because so many people our age don't have cable anymore, but I'm in the first season of a television show actually running right now on Sportsman Channel. If you have the Sportsman Channel, you can check it out. Mondays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern and Saturdays at noon Eastern. And I'm going to give that a rip, but I'm continuing the podcast and also trying to do digital really well, like YouTube, at the same time, which is not easy.
No.
But I'm figuring it out.
Well, couple things. I really appreciate you saying that, selfishly you wanted to talk to cool people. I think that's a reason a majority of people start podcasts because they just want to have fun conversations, and not a lot of guys will admit that. And I think early on, I didn't necessarily want to do that, but now it's transformed into that where I'm trying to just have unique conversations with people that I might not normally get to talk to if I didn't have a show or something like that.
Totally.
And then second of all, it's not strange to me that you said, you felt like God was talking to you and giving you this sign to start this podcast. My previous episode, we kind of just talked about some similar things like that, where when you get these signs and you get these we'll call them like memos. You
Mm-hmm.
have a choice to make. You can either follow it or ignore it. And when they're
Yeah.
so loud and they're so big and broad, if you don't listen to that, man, I think you're doing yourself a really big
Oh
disservice.
yeah.
And I mean, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you're missing an opportunity. I
Mm.
feel like the most dangerous thing in the world is to be successful at the wrong thing. I heard that said one time. Um, but I don't know. I just feel like God is not this angry. I used to have this notion in my head from my upbringing. Not that it was a bad upbringing, but I had this notion, and it's a lie from the enemy, that if I liked doing something, since I'm inherently bad, I'm a sinner. If I like something, that means it must not be good. And that's a
Mm.
deception. The thing that is true is that God created us with passions and interests and desires because he wants us to enjoy life. He wants us to, Jesus said, I came to bring life and life to the fullest. Not, not life that you wake up every morning hating your life. That's not why Jesus died on the cross, so you could go hate your life. He wants us to have an awesome life that we enjoy. So that requires walking in purpose and what you're made to do. And like literally, I got back from this last trip from Alaska. I was in this oil worker like bunker thing called the Brooks Camp, because Prudhoe Bay is not a town, it's just an oil outpost, and you stay, staging, you have to stay there for a night, and it's a dormitory for oil workers. Anyway, I was like packing up all this camera gear and cleaning guns and just like had all this cool crap around me and just had this amazing adventure. And then there's a mirror there, like in the room. I just caught myself in the mirror and I was like, wow, like I right now am the person like I always wanted to be. And like, I'm not trying to sound cocky, but it's just an amazing feeling because I spent so long in my life searching for what I was supposed to do and feeling like I had no purpose. And God is good, and when you listen to those voices, even if it seems weird or whatever, or it says God speaks in a still small voice. He's rarely going to smack you in the face. Sometimes he does, and you better listen if he does. But usually it's
Mhm.
a still small voice. And when you follow it and you get to the place where you're walking in your purpose, it's amazing, man.
We both talk to a lot of people weekly, daily, and it's very clear when somebody is comfortable with who they are and what they're doing, or if they, along with that, like if they love what they do. And I've been talking to you for 18 minutes, and it's blatantly obvious that like you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you're very, I wouldn't say content, but proud and have a sense of pride, I think, of like where you're at with your
Yeah.
career and everything else.
Content
And I
is a good
just
word.
think that's awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah, man, I appreciate it, and it's true. And it was a long, rough road to get here. I went through a lot of bad stuff in my life too.
How'd you get here? Like, what was the process like? You don't have to
Mm.
give like, a play by play or anything, but like advice for people that are searching for maybe who they are or what they should be doing. How'd you get there, man?
Well, first, I mean, you got to be connected to the source, which is God. That's your first step. I mean, if you have no relationship with God, you know, that's just the first step. So, I had lost that in my life. I, was involved in church and stuff like that at a young age. I was a Christian, I would say, but in college, I got super into drugs. I was into the music scene. Uh, Pretty much walked away from my faith and came out of school. Like I said, no purpose, didn't have any hope. Was wondering why I'm depressed. Well, maybe it's because you're dumping like enough sedatives into your body every day to like kill a horse. That might
Mm-hmm.
contribute.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I literally was like I was a drug addict for 10 years, man. I at the end of it, I had a very serious opioid addiction. I was going through thousands of dollars of liquid fentanyl every month, and I had no spirit. I had no soul. I was just like a walking shell, just dead inside. And it was a weird, like, never-ending cycle of, because of my physical dependency and addiction, I couldn't do my purpose. I couldn't walk in my purpose. I couldn't do these adventures. I couldn't do what I'm doing now. And that made me sad and depressed. I didn't know specifically, like, oh, I want to go film Western hunting. It wasn't like that. It was just like, I knew I was supposed to be doing something big, adventurous, awesome, something like this, but I just didn't know what. But I couldn't because of how addicted and just messed up I was. And then that made me sad. And then I would use more because I was sad. And then I would get deeper into addiction. It was just like, it just kept burying me deeper and deeper. It's another Bible verse says, a dream deferred makes the heart sick. So my dream, I kind of deferred my dream, and my heart was sick, and I was trying to medicate, and it was just making it worse. Anyway, long story short, man, I got clean. I kindled my relationship with God and was intentional about growing it, just like your physical fitness or your mental toughness. Your spiritual connection has to be intentionally grown. You have to spend time on it. Like anything else. It doesn't just happen. Right. So I cultivated that. I got closer to God after getting clean. I had to go to rehab. And then, just walking with him, it still wasn't like I was just like, one day I'm going to start a TV show or whatever. Like I said, it was a process, but that's where it starts, is getting connected, walking the right path, and then listening for those cues, like, hey, start a podcast. And then faith is like a box of tissues, okay? You don't get the next tissue until you pull that one out. And then you pull that one out and another one comes. And you pull that one out, it's not like you don't know what the fifth tissue is. Like, when I started the podcast, I wasn't even thinking about filming a hunt. But a hunt came up, and I was like, man, I have the skills to film this. I'm going to Kodiak. Why would I not? So I did, but I didn't know that was going to do anything with it. And then that did something, and then it just progresses. So I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's kind of how it happened for me.
Incredible. Yeah, I think people get in ruts, man, and clearly you were in one, but in a cliche, right? It's never too late to like try to make it out. And some people
for sure
struggle with that, and I understand, because you feel like you're so deep in a hole, and you don't have a ladder big enough to climb out of it. But it's never too late, man. If you're here and if you're breathing, like, hit me up. I'll talk to you. I'm sure you do the same. Like,
Absolutely.
Find somebody to express yourself and talk about your situation. And it's not a mental health podcast by any stretch, but I think it's important to touch on. And I appreciate
Absolutely.
you sharing kind of your testimony right there. Thank you.
For sure, man. Yeah.
I want to switch gears for a second, if you don't mind, dude.
Absolutely.
What's going on with the fitness journey? Because I saw it before, and then I saw like a present day recently. Yeah. Son, impressive. Like, great work.
Yeah. That was another journey. So you kind of asking for like the whole backstory on that kind of?
Yeah, like, what made you want to make a change with that? Obviously, getting out west and stuff, trying to
that was a huge part of it.
Hang in the mountains. Okay.
I'll give you so after I got out of rehab, I played sports in high school and stuff, but I never really liked going to the gym. I was never like super athletic. I was like an average athlete in high school, but I was a kid that like never wanted to go to the weight room and stuff. Like, and then I just kind of made that part of my identity, and like, oh, I never go to the gym, blah, 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 in college. Like, people like take things they don't like about themselves and like try to like flip it so that like they sound like they like it, but deep down they don't. I was doing that. And then, so anyway, after I got clean, I kind of, and this happens to a lot of people, but you're bored, you're sitting around, like, I kind of started eating everything. Like junk food, and at night eat a bunch of ice cream and stuff. And also, I mean, it's a dopamine release in your brain. Very similar to drugs. Not as strong, but it is. And so I just got really big, man. I'm about 6 foot. and I had, zero muscle mass, and I got up to about 250 pounds. So if you saw the picture, you can go on my Instagram. There's a post with a picture of Mountain Ops. I just recently became a Mountain Ops ambassador, and if you like swipe, you can see the before and after. But so I was really fat, and I just felt gross, man. I felt embarrassed to take my shirt off in front of my own wife. I felt when I was driving, I could feel like fat rolls on my sides, like uncomfortable. I felt like weak and just like not a man. I didn't feel like a man. I mean, that sounds dramatic, but it's really pretty true. Like I knew, like if anything went down, like I'd be done. Like someone could
Mm-hmm.
just, on the sheer factor, I would just be out of breath in 5 seconds. I would lose any fight. Not that I want to fight people, but you want to be able to defend your family or whatever.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I just felt gross and embarrassed and weak and fat. And so I was like, something's got to change. It finally, you know, I had a friend who's an ultra runner and a cool guy. It was my church small group. He wrote me some basic nutrition kind of programming and a little like workout routine and stuff. So I started doing that. Actually, lost a pretty good amount of weight. I'd probably say maybe 45 pounds or something over the course of maybe a year. Um, and then life happened and I started kind of getting back, gaining back some weight. I was probably back up to 225 or something, maybe 215, something like that. Not where I wanted to be, but I'd seen that I could do it, and I started building that habit. And then my buddy invited me to Alaska, and then it wasn't just like a nebulous, I need to get in shape. It was like, okay, I have this hunt in a year. I have to be able to, and my friend who invited me is ex-Navy Special Warfare, so he's like very fit. And he sent me like how far we're going to pack in and stuff, and I was like, wow. So that was the carrot, which is, I think I always tell guys, like, you need to have a goal, whether it's a race, a hunt, whatever, bodybuilding competition, I don't care. Just something that you're working towards that you're excited about. It gives it a different purpose and a meaning. And so yeah, so I started training really hard, and then I needed some community. I needed people pushing me, and I needed someone writing me programming because I started falling into a rut. Just go to the gym, jog a mile, do some bench, do some buys and tries,
No
and leave kind
structure,
of
right?
deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I joined a CrossFit gym. Got some community, got some programming, and then also just being around other people who were like fitness minded and goal oriented. And then the COVID happened, and then that actually was good for me because I was not eating out. I was making all my foods and tracking my nutrition on a free app. And so that's when it really started came off. That's when I went down to my like lowest weight ever, which was like 174. I'm probably around 180 now, but yeah, so that's what, like 75 pounds or something total.
Hmm.
So yeah, it comes down to having a goal, community, like people pushing you, and nutrition is, I mean, you cannot outwork a bad diet. You just can't.
No, that's facts. Um, I have a question for you, man. I'm sorry, I'm taking notes as we speak. This is
No, you're
excellent.
good, dude.
Have you noticed that while you were in the process of, getting in shape and eating better and you're looking in the mirror and you're kind of seeing your body like transform, and obviously now you're in incredible shape. You've made your whole fitness journey kind of a part of your routine in your life. Have you noticed everything else around you kind of like really seem to take off and, just become
Yeah.
successful and the pieces are falling where you want them to? Do you think that's a coincidence or do you not? Because I've just noticed people that are in shape or take care of themselves seem to be a tad bit more successful than others that aren't. Maybe like the 70% of, the country that's overweight and obese. What do you
Yeah.
think?
100% it's correlated. Dan, actually, I saw him do a post the other day. He said something. It kind of stuck with me, which was your body is a resume.
Mm, yes.
And it's like, dude, I mean, it's kind of true, man. Like, I agree with you. Yes. So when I started really going from like losing a little bit of weight casually into like getting like really fit, like honestly, like I remember thinking like I will never like have abs. I'll never see my abs. And like and then like the first time I was like, "Whoa, I can see my abs." Like
Mm-hmm.
it was just weird. But anyway, what I was trying to say was when I started really going to like the next level and kicking into gear and the podcast was going, yes, there was a like exponential of creativity, of
Yes.
drive, of focus. I wrote a book actually during that time, which I'm working on getting out now, hopefully. I, was doing the podcast. I did the first hunt film I ever did, which was pretty good. Um, and other stuff too. I can't remember exactly, but it's just like all these like I was just creating, just like
Mm-hmm.
I've a little bit, maybe a little bit plateaued, or just doing more like systems and processes now. But yeah, when it was definitely, and I've seen recently studies too about like just the connection between exercising and your brain, how it
Yes.
works. Um, And there's a whole other side of that too, where I think my spirituality was growing. I think
Mm-hmm.
God opens up things. I also think at this point I'd been clean for a while, but still, like it takes a long time, like years, for your brain to like really fully recover from like hardcore drug dependency for
Mm-hmm.
years. And so that was probably like really starting to come back. So it was a lot of stuff, but absolutely to your question, yes, I do think it's correlated. And it's discipline,
Yes.
it's consistency, and those are two things that you have to have to be successful at most anything, really.
And it's good for business. Like honestly, like being in shape is good for business because I mean, this just is what it is, but first impressions go a long way with people. They go a
Yeah,
long way with me. And if you meet somebody for the first time and they're maybe kind of sloppy and you can tell that they don't take the best care of themselves, that
yeah,
to me raises a few red flags. And I understand like people are busy. I mean, you are, so am I.
yeah,
People have medical conditions. I get that. But it's just I don't know. There's something about doing business or having a conversation or trying to create something with somebody else that first and foremost cares about their health, takes care of
yeah,
that, and then usually you can see how squared away they are in the other aspects of their life as well. It's
yeah.
just, food for
Squared
thought,
away.
brother. Yeah, food for thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, today, so many people, and it is it. I don't blame society, but that is part of it. Just the food. I feel bad for people who don't really know or are ignorant, but like yeah, just the food that we're like raised eating, the
Mhm.
garbage, and just how society is set up with work and school. Like I understand why so many people are overweight, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, when I look at a guy mid 40s to 50 and they're like not fat, I'm like, good job, dude. You know
Impressive,
what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
Like you made it to middle age and you're not fat. That's like an accomplishment these days. But it is. It's like, I mean, it might sound crass or whatever, but like I automatically respect them just a little bit more.
No, that's facts. I appreciate you sharing that, dude, because that's totally how it is with me. I'll be out with my wife and we'll be out to dinner or something, and this guy will walk by holding hands with his wife, and like I could give two craps what his wife looks like. I'm like, damn, that dude's
That dude's fit.
jacked. Or yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
My wife's looking at me all weird. It's like, would you rather me look at his wife? Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
totally, man. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to, sound like, we're downing guys that are listening that are, it's just like you said
of
earlier,
course
like the
not.
best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you got to start with taking a 10-minute walk in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, go outside, pray and walk or listen to the Bible or something. Do something. Just start.
Yes. Yeah.
That
And
goes
I
for
don't care what that
spirituality,
is,
physical,
man.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not downing you. Just like I said, it's not easy, but
Mm-hmm.
it's worth it. So
Yeah. And it's so much more difficult to actually get in good shape than it is to get out of it. And if you stay in relatively
Yeah,
decent
that's
shape, you never have to really get back into it. Just do something, like just be
yeah.
consistent with whatever it is that you're doing, because that freaking, like, you climbed it, man, that mountain of losing all that weight and trying to
It took years.
turn this into a routine and a lifestyle. And dude, it's hard, man.
Yeah,
It's hard.
it's not like 6 weeks I went on some crazy
Hmm.
thing. No, it was like a year's process. And so yeah, I mean, the other thing is too, it will get worse if you're overweight. It's not going to stay there.
Yeah.
You're already building the patterns. It's going to get worse. The best time is to get on it now, as soon as you can today. Just start something and track what you're eating too. That'll help.
Agreed. We'll switch it again, man. So we have,
Yeah.
and I might miss a few, but we have a podcast. You're on a television show. You do photography. You do film. I'm sure there's a couple other things. YouTube a little bit.
Hmm.
But these are all outlets, in my opinion, that give you the opportunity to story tell.
Hmm.
Where did that come from?
Oh, he froze.
Oh, we're good now. I think we're
There you
back.
go.
Did you hear my last
You
question?
said storytell. That was all I heard.
Yeah. So we have the podcast, we have the television show, all these different outlets, photography and film. All of those are kind of an avenue to tell a story. Where did that come from? Like, clearly, you wouldn't be doing all these things if you didn't enjoy taking somebody on a journey and painting a picture, so to speak, and trying to
Yeah.
educate. Where did that come from? Have you always enjoyed that role, or is this something that you
Yeah.
just learned and just gathered throughout time?
A couple things are going through my mind. So the first thing is one of the first like memories I have of like what I want to do when I grow up as a kid. I was obsessed with Discovery Channel back when Discovery Channel was actually animal documentaries, not like
Mm-hmm.
weird crap. I'm sure there's still some good stuff on there, but like it used to be like all just animal documentaries. And I was obsessed with that. I would watch it all the time. Um, and I remember like I wanted to be a wildlife photographer. That was like I remember that was like one of the first things I wanted to be when I grew up, quote unquote. And then I remember doing like making little radio shows with my friends on like a tape cassette recorder or making videos when, video recorders kind of came out, the smaller ones. My dad would let me play with it and stuff. Um, and really enjoying, like sometimes we get projects in school where we had to like make a video, and I used to like really enjoy that. Um, so, and then, like I mentioned to earlier about like the waterfowl thing, like obviously I've always been a hunter, and these guys, they're still out there. They're called Swamp Wreck. I think they do like fishing and waterfowl on the East Coast. My buddy Max Flowers. But anyway, so I always enjoyed it. I always had like kind of an eye for it. I've always been a creative type person and had like a natural eye for photography. Um, but the weird thing is, I remember like having the thought as a child that like I'm not good at telling stories. Like I wasn't a good storyteller. Um, and it's kind of weird how it seems like a thing in my life I do, where it's like something that I feel like I'm not good at. I like attack it 100%. Like this last trip, man. Like the previous two times I've been in a pack raft before this trip were like very bad. Like I almost went in the water. It was scary. Like people were making fun of me. And then I'm like, I'm gonna do a trip where I gotta raft out 70 miles. That was not intentional. I just realized that after the fact. But anyway, to say I don't remember. I remember thinking I wasn't a very good storyteller. Um, and then through a long process, which is a long story I'll spare you from, but I ended up working as a cameraman at the Christian Broadcasting Network. And that's how I learned how to use a camera. I was a camera operator for 2 years, and I'm talking shooting stuff every day and traveling 3 weeks out of 4 a month on shoots, always shooting. And that's when I started to observe how these people were telling stories. And then I became a producer, and I was writing scripts, and I was formulating interviews to get a desired kind of outcome. It was a little formulaic, unfortunately, but I learned how to tell certain types of stories and I did humanitarian disaster relief, which is really cool. We have to identify stories in the field and then tell their stories, like in Nepal and like Ecuador and all these really cool places, Thailand. Um, so I kind of honed that during that time. Um, and then, I still don't think like I'm an amazing storyteller, to be honest with you. Like when I film hunts, I just kind of capture it the way it went down and just put it together kind of how it happened. But somehow it's like a hunt is almost always a good story no matter what,
Agreed.
It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of challenging when you don't kill anything, but I actually, one of my best ones I just did, we didn't get one, during bear season, but, anyway, man, yeah, I love it. I love the creativity aspect of it. I love actually filming the animals. I do this kind of cool thing, like I mentioned before, where I'm not just a host and there's a camera guy filming me and I kill one and we leave. This is the second or third time where I've told my cameraman, hey, grab a tag, film me kill one, Lord willing, and then I'm going to film you. That way I get more content. He has fun. Usually he cuts me a deal. Uh,
Sure.
and I enjoy the filming aspect of it too. Now it does come with its own challenges too, but I'll still carry around the camera half the time, and so I enjoy it. But yeah,
What kind of camera are you guys running?
so I shoot on Sony A7S3s. A lot of the guys I work with are actually shooting Canon. It's a mix, but honestly, I'm really impressed with the Canon like R3s. I think R6. My buddy Luke has, I think. I'm not super familiar with the Canons, but I will say I do like their color on the Canons a little better than the Sonys. I was taught on Sony, so I'm just really comfortable with Sonys, but they're good. So I run A7S3s, but I think Canons are also pretty good too.
I have to ask for all the photography nerds that listen to my
Sure.
show, so yeah,
Yeah, of course, man.
But I don't ask too many people this question on here. I try to, just see where it goes, but I can tell you have a very broad and educated perspective on life. Like you've been around and seen some things and have experienced some
Thanks.
stuff. Is there anything in your life, like if you have to do like a self debrief at the moment in your life, is there anything in your life that you know that you probably should be doing that you're just simply like putting on the back burner? Like you know that like this would either better you or it would set you up for success like later on down the road, or anything where you're like, man, I should probably look into trying this or getting this done, but you're
Yeah.
not.
Well, there's a million things like that are like small practical things. Like I have like 18 different to-do lists with a million things on them. Like that's just the life of like solo entrepreneur. Like I'm doing the podcast, the show, trying to stay on top of social media, YouTube, like I'm trying to teach myself how to elk call, I'm trying to e-scout, like I'm still learning all this. I've never killed an elk before, and I got my first elk hunt coming up, which I somehow drew an amazing like New Mexico like premium elk tag for my first elk hunt. Which
Let's
is nuts.
go.
So yes, there's tons of millions of things, and you only have so much time, right? So there's lots of stuff, but I think more the overarching concept of the question that came to my mind was I need to be better at building a team and like a tribe. I'm an island right now. Like even just physically, I'm on the East Coast. Like hardly anyone geographically around me is doing what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is so specific. Like even if I have other, like I have a friend here who owns a production company. He's a filmmaker. Even does some like outdoor stuff too. But even then, like today yesterday I had someone asked me, potential sponsor asked me a question. I had no idea how to respond, and I don't know anybody I can really ask this. I was thinking Dan, but you can only hit up people so many times for advice,
Sure.
before it starts to get a little annoying. But I need to do a better job of like building a team, building a tribe. I think that's a huge part of success. And also for entrepreneurs, it can be hard. Like I've built a lot of this stuff as my baby on my own for so long. It's hard to want to give over control of anything to people, but I'm gonna have to start farming more stuff out. Just because I can't stay on top. Like, you can't be a wizard at social media, YouTube, produce an entire television show by yourself and a podcast and be like a dad and like learn how to do all this stuff. You can't do it all, man. Something's going to fail, or you're going to be just okay at all of them. So I need to do a better job of building that and working on that.
That's so funny, man, because I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, it's getting to the point where with what I'm trying to build where I really could source some of this work out. Like, for sure, it would free me up to focus. It would free me up to focus more on like my athletes and my coaching aspect of the business, and like editing podcast and trying to find guests. Like, all of that takes time. It'd be great to have somebody, like you said, a part of your tribe to maybe handle some nuanced types of things. But I resonate with that a lot. So I'm glad I'm not the only one that's just overloaded at times. Yes.
You got to find people that you trust on like a human level, but also you trust that what they put out like is like, yes, like this brand that I've built for 3 years, like I'm comfortable with this guy's work being associated with, you know what I mean? Like, it's not easy. So,
and giving up control too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's one guy. I've worked with one guy. I'm not going to say who he is. He probably knows who he is if he's listening. That I would love to, like, I don't know if I could afford it, but I don't think I could afford it, but I'd love to like work with him. But anyway, it's just hard to find, people. Cuz also at this level, guys like you and me, we don't have like millions of dollars where we can just like pay someone's salary. Like, on some level, they're probably going to have to be bought in enough where they're willing to sacrifice also, like I do.
Yes.
Like putting out podcasts for 3 years and never getting one dime from it. Well, I mean, I've gotten benefits from it, in other ways, but like I've never like made money off it. So anyway, just saying, like, people have to be bought in enough to like be willing to like do stuff and not necessarily get a paycheck or whatever, which is even harder.
Facts. And we'll talk a little bit more business off air, but I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, I need to hit up some like local colleges and just find an intern. That's
a great idea.
Yeah, dude. That's what I was thinking. So there you go. But yeah, I was.
Where are you at? Are you in Tennessee?
No, I'm in Billings, Montana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, you're out there, man. You could find people.
I'm trying, dude. Yeah, it's hard, man, but it's fun. Like, you know what it's like starting a business and this, that, and the other. Like, it takes a lot of work. Like, I work more now than I did like when I had a 9 to 5. It's not even close. It's not even close, dude.
Same here. The thing that is good about it is because I'm obsessed, but it's because I love it, and like I would probably be thinking about it anyway. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's always something, man. Like, I gotta hit this guy up, or I gotta find a spot to go elk hunting in Montana. I would already be thinking about this stuff anyway, and now just like being able to make it into a job, and then add on, learning new weapon systems, and oh my gosh, there's so much. But instead of being like, oh, there's so much paperwork and insurance to sell, it's like there's so much like guns to put together and things to e-scout. Like, it's like, okay, I have a lot to do, but it's like so cool. Most of it.
Yeah. Well, our thing is like so many people would kill to be in the position that my wife and I are in, and like we're not doing anything extravagant over here, but we just have a lot going on, and sometimes we can get bogged down, but we have to sit back and talk to each other and be like, man, so many people would just give anything to be as busy and on the go and have all these projects and be as overwhelmed as us. Like, it's overwhelming when you have so many irons in the fire, but man, I wouldn't have it any other way. What else would I be doing if we weren't,
for sure,
trying to build a life and to get better? And I just think that perspective, right? Like, people always are going to want what you have, and even though you have it or you're working towards it, it's still difficult, but you can't ever lose sight of, being thankful for what it is that you're trying to build and what you already have.
Totally. Yeah. I don't like standing still. much anyway, so it gets boring.
Fall plans, dude, and then I'll get you out of here. You're going elk hunting in New Mexico. You drew a killer tag. What else you got?
Yeah, so I drew my Montana General elk tag.
Come on. Come
Yes.
on. Let's
Yeah, I know.
go.
So I wasn't planning on drawing. Obviously, I wasn't planning on drawing this New Mexico tag 'cause it's like less than 1% draw odds, but I did, and thankfully, the season ends October 18th, and then obviously rifle season Montana opens the 21st. So I'm doing a mini elk tour. I'm calling it. I'm gonna hunt that New Mexico season, and as soon as I kill something, I'm driving straight to Montana, and I'm gonna hunt probably 5 or 6 days in Montana. And that one, maybe we could talk more about it too, because I have no idea what I'm gonna do for that. I'm kind of a little bit lost. But anyway,
it's okay. You're
yeah.
supposed to be. You're supposed to be.
Exactly. I mean,
I still
for
am.
like so many weeks, I was just like, all right, just had to focus on Alaska. I was like, just wait, and then we'll figure that out later. So within this month, I got to figure out my elk hunting plans, and there's a lot of logistics there. But anyway, it's gonna be fun. So I'm doing that one with Kobe and my cousin, the New Mexico one, which my cousin knows even less about elk hunting than I do. But I intentionally invited him just to keep it fun, and I don't know. I was trying to think like, oh, who can I invite? In the industry, help me. Da, da, da. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna invite my cousin, just have fun, and we're just gonna figure it out, and it's gonna be hilarious. And fortunately, there's tons of elk where we're going, so it's still gonna be hard. But anyway, I just thought that'd be. And plus, everyone's busy anyway. So anyway, then we're doing that. Then we're going to Montana, and then after that, I come home for like 5 days, and then I'm going to Oregon to hunt blacktail deer with my friend Luke Dusenberry. He's from out there. He's got some local knowledge, and blacktail deer is the last North American deer subspecies I need for my deer slam, which I don't care that much about, but it's cool and I love deer.
Still cool.
Yeah, and I think blacktail is like a very under documented species. There's not a lot of cool blacktail content. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to do that. And they pushed the season back this year to November 10th, which is amazing. First year ever. So we're going to hunt that first 10 days of Oregon. And then I got a nice long break, and then I'm going to do Aoudad in West Texas right before Hunt Expo, and then drive to the Mule Deer Foundation Hunt Expo directly after that. And then, this is not fall anymore, but do you know Pedro Ampuero?
No, should I?
Yeah, he's a cool international hunter, YouTuber. He's got a podcast. He's from Spain.
Okay.
Really cool guy. He works with like Yeti, and he's like Kuyu Europe guy, and he's cool. Anyway, he invited me to come to Spain and hunt chamois in the summer. So hopefully going to do that with him, and then he's going to come over and I'm going to take him antelope hunting.
Absolutely.
Next year. So anyway, cool stuff, man.
Really cool, man. Well, hey, Hunter, dude, appreciate you coming on. It's a pleasure getting to meet you. I hope that we see each other down the road, man. If you're coming to Montana.
Are you going to be at the expo?
I don't know. I don't have my calendar as filled out as yours in advance.
Okay.
I see you going through your stuff. I'm a day by dayer, not really, but I need to figure out the rest of my hunts this year is what I need to do, and then go from there. But yeah, if you're in Montana, we should link up and it'd be fun.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be wild because unless I get super blessed and kill one pretty early in New Mexico, I'm not gonna really have any time to scout, which is kind of scary. So I might be kind of flying in blind on that, and then it just I have a bunch of people I want to see in Montana. So again, if something crazy happens and I get super blessed and I have like a couple days at the end, like I finish early, I'll definitely look you up and.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good deal, man. Well, listen.
Yeah, dude. Thanks
drop
for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Drop where people can find you, and then I'll get you out.
Yeah, man. So on YouTube, you can search my name, Hunter McWaters, McWaters. The podcast is called The Hunter's Quest Podcast. You can find that anywhere. And then I'm on social media, Instagram at The Hunter's Quest, and then the TV show on Sportsman Channel, 11:30 a.m. on Monday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Monday, and noon Eastern on Saturdays. So,
Perfect, man. Thanks again. Stay on the line. I'll get you out of here.
yeah, man. Thanks, dude.